freelancer. I'm very excited to have with us today Elina and Jon. Probably everyone who has signed up, several hundreds, know these two. I will not say too much about you, but welcome already. So before we get started, a little bit of housekeeping. So the agenda today is we have about 60 minutes together, a quick introduction to everything. Then Elina will present for about 20 to 30 minutes the 8-pillar framework, where she shows you how to actually make sure that you have a constant customer pipeline. Afterwards, we'll have another 30 minutes together with Elina and Jon for a Q&A. You can use the YouTube chat that you see, I think somewhere here on the right, as well as Slido, and we will show the Slido QR code later on to ask any questions, to have communication. We have Blago and Manuel from the team in the chat as well. So if there are any questions, then they can help you as well and push them as good as possible to our direction. Now, you might be also wondering, who the heck is Freelance Unlocked and why are Jon and Elina there? Well, Freelance Unlocked is I can say actually the biggest freelance conference in the world. That doesn't mean much, but we get about 1,000 freelancers and solopreneurs every year in Berlin with over 50 speakers, 3 stages over 2 days. This year on the 11th and 12th of June. Our goal is to obviously give freelance and solopreneurs the chance to learn and to educate themselves and to improve their business, but on the other hand, of course, to network, to learn, to mingle, and to have this nice get-together on a yearly basis. Aside of this event, there are other events. There's Christmas Unlocked. We started meetups in different places in Poland, and more places to come. If you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to us, and that is perhaps also one big topic from our side. We run now these 5 webinars that you might have seen. If you haven't seen them, you can go on the website freelanceunlocked.com/webinars. And we would always like to get your input. What are you looking for? What do you want to see in such a conference? What kind of formats do you want to see? What kind of workshops or input do you need as a freelancer? The conference itself is a joint venture by Freelancer Map, Uplink, and 9am. So we are 3 companies that got together to do this conference because we believe and still believe that it is absolutely necessary, that there is a place to meet and to learn as freelancers. So this is for you, and therefore we would love to get your input. Now, again, welcome Elina and Jon. For everyone who doesn't know them, I think these are the 2 people globally in the freelance market that have the most experience and knowledge about what's going on. Elina has been doing a lot of things in the freelance market. I think over 10 years a freelancer herself. She runs the freelance business community and academy, the first freelance business month, if I remember right, for how many years now, Elina?
7th edition this year.
7th edition, crazy. Yeah. So really something that is absolutely stunning with many talks. So she knows everyone and everything and has heard so many talks about freelancing, been freelancing herself. So I think there couldn't be anyone better to give you some insights on how to get better in your freelancing. And then there is another person that you see here as well. That is Jon, the most favorite Godfather of the Freelance Revolution. Well, there is only one Godfather of the Freelance Revolution, Jon Younger. Amazing to have you with us. I think there's no other person that has spoken to more freelancepreneurs, freelancers, freelance communities, everything around the freelance world, and written articles about that on Forbes. Really exciting to have you here with us, Jon. Thanks and welcome. Great. So before we get to the Q&A afterwards, Elina gives you the introduction. So I hand over to Elina, and we see each other again in about 25 minutes. Enjoy.
Thank you so much, Mark. Let me do this first. Well, I am very privileged in the first place to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation, but also very nervous because such a topic. I started freelance business community just to answer this question to myself. I spent 10 years in freelance business and 8 years of which I was talking to freelancers just to figure out how to ensure a constant customer pipeline as a freelancer. When I started 10 years ago, I had a very luxurious position. I signed off contracts almost instantly from day one of my freelance career. I had pretty solid contracts with clients, and I felt life is beautiful. Like, why people are so concerned about finding customers? I've got them almost instantly because I did some prep work. But 2 years later, those contracts had to be canceled because of financial difficulties in the industry. And so I ended up on the market, absolutely flabbergasted by the fact that I have to do something about the fact that I don't have customers at the moment and I need to gain revenue. So I started connecting with freelancers, and this is how freelance business community was born. First locally on Belgium grounds, and then internationally online, connecting with other freelancers around the world. And through those years, 8 by now, I've been talking to so many people, freelancers, experts, business coaches, and I learned massively about how to run a freelance business. I'm going to share with you today what I learned and what actually makes freelancers being in demand versus those who are not in demand at all and who are struggling. Well, how to tackle a pipeline? There are 2 ways, obviously. One is very mechanical, and technically just a calculation. And if you want to get that spreadsheet, which is not a rocket science, I can send it to you. Just connect with me on LinkedIn. It's by calculating how many hours you really have, how much money you need to get, and what sort of projects you need to have, and how many of them. And the most interesting column on this slide particularly is conversations. And this conversion ratio is based on personal experience, but also on all sort of statistics. And I will explain the percentage of the conversion, what influences on that, what influences the percentage of the conversion. Obviously, you know, there is a big difference from having 200 conversations that would convert to 4 projects or only 8. And so what stands behind this dramatic change? And here is actually, I wanted to show my track record of applying for jobs at the time before I became freelancer. There is no difference between applying for jobs or looking for customers. It's still massive work every single time. So pipeline conversion really depends on your proximity to customers. And as you can see on this slide, a really low conversion if you have no prior relationships with those people, and very high conversion when you have a very strong positioning and you are recognized as an expert in your particular field. It's almost a door opener to any conversation. And I hear now people like, what positioning? What are you going to talk to us about? Well, yes, I'm going to talk about positioning a little bit here, because pipeline, as we'll explain later, is part of your overall business structure as such. And you cannot just extract customer acquisition from the rest that you do. And we tend to think we can just take the sales out of the equation and try to find a simple formula or shortcut. And we see a lot of those crap online. Like, I like to copy this absolutely bizarre, advertisements on Instagram and LinkedIn, where people promising quick results without focusing on essentials. Like this guy, which actually looks like Leonardo DiCaprio to me, promises that you can gain customers, actually high-ticket customers, by not even showing testimonials or not even picking up the phone. And of course, you can buy this crap online. Another thing I really like, here's another person was saying that you can technically package anything. Like whatever you do, you can just package nicely. And look, I did that and generated 1 million sales. Like,
Okay, so I think we lost Elina right now. I'm sure that she's back in a second. In the meantime, until Elina is back, it's back to Jon and me. I think we can start chatting about something right now. I'm sure she will talk about it, but when she just spoke about the pipeline and showed the different types of conversions, I was thinking, is it necessary to just play one of these methods, or are there lots of different approaches to take when it comes to customer acquisition? So beyond platform and play a number
Mark,
of
I think that's a great point. And I would add to that what Elina is inviting us to do, if I may say so, is to dream big, but also dream real. And one of the challenges of the last couple of slides that she showed, and the offer to make $1 million while you sleep, that's dreaming big. It's just not dreaming real. And at the end of the day, you need a system. You need a set of steps that takes you from A to wherever it is you're going. And that's what she's going to provide. I would add to that, when she's back, that there is a way to everything you want. The question is, are you willing to pay the cost? The cost in terms of homework, the cost in terms of time, the cost in terms of investment, the cost in terms of lost moments with somebody that you enjoy being with. I mean, those are the costs of being successful in a small business.
I think it's a very interesting point, right? I spoke to a coach that I think does an amazing job, but also takes a good check from his customers. And I asked, why is it necessary? And then we said two things. Well, there comes the value-based pricing topic, but then there comes another part. And he said, look, if people go through the sales process and they give me that check, then they give me the commitment that they will do the work. And if they do the work, then it will work out and there is a positive effect. And I think this is the cost of making the work. Like listening to a webinar like today is nice, but in the end, you gotta do it. You have to put into effect, into reality.
And I would add to what Mark is saying, that at the end of the day, the most important criterion for success isn't your skill set, but that's very important, obviously. It's not your personality. That's important, but not so important. At the end of the day, it's the relationship of trust that you establish with your clients. And you have to do that at the very beginning. You can't establish trust at the end of a gig. You got to establish trust before it starts. So what are you doing to invest in a trusting relationship? As Elina said, 2% of the conversations go somewhere. Well, imagine that you did a little bit to build trust in advance of that conversation. Maybe you double it, maybe you triple it. But the idea here is let's put in place what needs to be put in place for you to be successful. And that starts with a belief on the part of your client that you can get something done as well or better at a more reasonable price, or as reasonable a price as anybody else.
Okay. Let's do another thing, because I think sure. Elina probably still has some tech issues. Yeah, sure. You mentioned before that you want to do a nice session at Freelance Unlocked. We will have this one part. We still need to do the details, but there will be one stage which will be for long sessions, 2 to 3 hours, really deep dives on topics. And you just said, well, you would love to do one of these sessions.
I would love to. And while we're waiting for Elina, Blago, what do you think about me showing a few slides? May I just show a few slides?
Yeah, go ahead.
1 second.
I see a thumbs up from the host in the background. Excellent. The producer.
Let's make sure I got it right. There. And what I'd like to do is start with this first one. We haven't completed all of the freelance stuff, all of the presentation materials yet. But the title of the presentation and the title of the workshop is Dream Big, but Dream Real. And I don't know how many of you collect and keep fortune cookie fortunes, but I do sometimes. And this is my favorite. It's been in my wallet for 18 years. And it says there is a way to everything you want. I believe that deeply. I believe that it's been true in my case. I believe that it will be true in your case as well. So how do you do that? And what we're going to talk about in the workshop and get people involved in is, first and foremost, understand what turns you on at work. If you're not excited about what you're doing, if it doesn't feed you, you're not going to be successful long-term. Understanding your career orientation is very important. We're going to provide you with a survey to collect a little data on yourself and other people. We're going to provide you with a framework for career orientation. We're going to help you to suggest what your career orientations are. Are you driven more by getting ahead, or by doing work that you really care about, or by finding work that's long-term and secure, or by work that really excites you on a continuing basis? What is it? What's the mix? The second thing we're going to do in our workshop is to talk about the experience of success in detail. When you are successful, what does it look like? What does it deliver? And what does it feel like when you are truly in the zone? Because our challenge is to get more of your time in that zone. And the next question is, and when it doesn't work, why? What goes wrong 80% of the time? And I'll tell you what, in my cases, 80% of the time, I get a little too arrogant at time, and that gets me in trouble. Next question is, what's one step closer to experiencing success on a more regular basis? What is it that you need to do to experience greater success within that career orientation? Describing the experience of success in detail, what it looks like, delivers, and feels like. And then two last questions. First is, who's in your cafe cabinet? We used to talk about it as a kitchen cabinet, a group of people that provide you with unerringly honest feedback on what you're doing. Do you have some folks that you can depend on to tell you the truth, to give you advice, and to give you feedback on what you're doing well and maybe need to work on a little better? And then finally, what are your clients saying about you? Have you created a powerful client chorus that builds your trust in advance of you ever having a conversation with your clients, because they have heard from others they trust that you are trustworthy? That's the plan. And this is kind of my GLP-1 effort to make it look kind of neat. We're going to be talking about how you create that map that gets you from where you are to there is a way to everything you want. And with that, I'm pretty excited about not only teaching it, but working with you on it and making sure that people leave with a couple of really good ideas for how they can be closer to getting everything they want.
Sweet.
Mark?
Yeah, I mean, you've done this 2 years ago, right? You have done a similar-ish session twice, I think, because
50 people,
wanted
and it worked
to
great.
do. It was fantastic. Actually, there's one thing that I want to ask you there is, and I think you touched it on the side, is how important do you think community is when it comes to selling and when it comes to growing your customer base?
You know, it's a wonderful question. Community is a big word. I would use a slightly different phrase, if I may. I think that what we learned from the Neanderthals was that it's better to hunt in packs. It's as simple as that. So if you're part of a small group, I'm not suggesting a big group, but if you're part of a small group that's helping one another and trying not only to experience success for yourself, but also to understand that helping others with success is just a multiplier for your own achievements, that gets neat. The second step, and Mark, I think this is part of what you're maybe mentioning, is how do we build an entire community around the notion of helping one another? That's a big goal. Unfortunately, most platforms don't operate that way. Most platforms, in my experience, are digital warehouses of talent. and not as much focused on getting the word out as just keeping the people in. Doesn't help all that much. So I'm very excited about the idea of how you create not only hunting parties, if I may, to support one another, but how do you create an entire community or large bits of community around those opportunities? We've seen one, Mark, that and I'd be interested in your view. I see Catalent as trying to do that in a very particular way. Catalent, for folks that don't know, is a large consulting platform created by Pat Petiti and Rob Biederman way back when, around 2011. They do a nice job, and the way in which they've been thinking about it is to create what they call packets of capability. In other words, Katie Leibel, as an individual, used to work for McKinsey, and now she's independent as a consultant, is one of the people that leads their transformation group, if I may put it that way. It's informal, but the notion is how do we help one another within that strategy pack, within that strategy packet, and that seems to be something that's working well. Mark, do you have another example? I mean, how does 9 a.m. make this happen? How do other folks make this happen?
Yeah, I think it's so I'm trying to get a presentation out because we're not catching Elina currently on WhatsApp neither by phone. So there must be something down. To take out a presentation that I've sent Jon and Elina before, which was literally just coming out of a conversation that we had, which is at the core that I think community is important and that niching down is important, that all of the different things that you usually hear play a big role, but it's about your personal mix, and it's really about how do you play it yourself. Give me a moment. Perhaps we can play it like this. It's not ideal, but at the core, and I think this is a bit similar to how Elina does it. They're different parts, right? And it's yes. Always a bit of the definition of yourself. Now you can have different ways of defining yourself. I think the first thing is really understanding what type of freelancer you are. I'll get to that in a second. Then about your positioning, your pricing, your promotion, then the channels and the conversion, performance, and the management. And I think we can talk about a few things, and then Jon and me, we can perhaps jump in on a few of those topics. I think this is not too hard, but we mentioned here something that Jon said before. So one is, are you freelancer, interim manager, fractional, gig worker, and how do you work? What kind of pipeline do you need? Do you need a lot of volume? If we go further in, if you are a gig worker, you probably have small ticket size, but high volume. If you're a marketeer, designer, you probably have a higher volume than if you are an enterprise software engineer. And then that plays into how do you want to set up your whole marketing funnel? How do you want to make sure that you have a constant pipeline of jobs? And then there's the other part. Are you perhaps a collective or a network? So you have these people which we were talking about that are around you that might have sales that comes before you. So a service, if you're a developer, let's say a front-end developer, and there's a designer that does a lot of website design. Well, back in the days, these days might be a bit different, but back in the days, you have someone that designs and afterwards someone that does the front-end design. So you would have someone that works before you, and if it's in the collective, then you can have them as part of your funnel.
Yes.
So I think defining this for yourself and having a clear understanding, where do you position yourself within that? What is your self-identification there? Has a big impact on your strategy on how to create a constant flow of jobs. Now, then comes everything that the majority of people talk about, and I would leave that out now. That's the whole topic of positioning, niching down, ICPs, value proposition, and so on. I think it's really crucial and needs to be done, but it's a bit harder to do in such a quick session, and I think is a topic by itself. Now, when you have when you've done this work, then there comes the question on how do I get these jobs, right? Do I get them from platforms? Do I get them from doing outbound? And that's what Elina showed in the beginning, high numbers. I'll show a slide in a second. Do I do this by doing LinkedIn, so personal brand, and try to create a lot of inbound? It can be also SEO. Or do I do it through network? Or do I do it through a mix of that? And what kind of jobs do I get at what point? Because what you need to understand, I think, is depending on who you are, the self-identification, there might be different mix that is the right mix for you. But also depending on the time when you need your next project, there is a different thing that you want to do. So if you have a lot of time, while you constantly play on inbound, on LinkedIn, on making sure that you get stuff in, because you cannot plan this as much. But once it gets closer to you having a gap of a new job, you want to be on platforms, you want to be on outbound. So you need to play the game of numbers just to make sure that something comes through at the time. So it's a matter of the right mix, but also the right timing. And then there's network referral, which is what I have the feeling the majority of people do too little and not well enough. Perhaps regarding this, Jon, tell me something. What do you think about this? And do you agree with my last statement?
You know, I think, you know, it's so important to give before you get. So as you think about the network and referrals, as you think about inbound and LinkedIn, as you think about platforms and outbound, I guess one of the questions that you might ask yourself is, how well are you contributing to the other people who can help you to be successful? What are you doing to pay it forward, as the movie title goes, so that you're building a set of relationships? And I'll give you an example in my case, and that is, if you really take a look at it, I'm giving a lot more away than I'm getting. And I feel great about that.
I can agree with that. It's
and
amazing.
I feel great about it. And I feel great about it because it provides me the opportunity to not only feel like I'm building a network that matters, friends that are important to me, like Mark, like Blago, but in addition to that, people that I've invested in, people that I've helped, want to be helpful to me as well. And that's a wonderful thing. So I feel very strongly that one of the things that we ought to keep a very clear handle on, if that's the right term, is what's our give it forward effort? Are we truly contributing to the success of other people? And how much of our time is being spent in that way? And are we getting back from that some really exciting opportunities as well? So I think what you're into is really strong. When I read these categories, they feel very formal and technical.
Well, if you say AI generated, you would be correct. We're winging this a little bit. No, I agree.
But Mark, I think the message is that all of these are about relationships. None of these are about what I do by myself. It's always in concert with other people. So they're really asking yourself the question, how well am I building my client chorus? How well am I building my relationships with other freelancers? How well am I contributing to their success as a precursor to their contribution to my success? You know, at the end of the day, those are the things that really help long-term to make things happen.
I agree. I think why these wordings were important to me in a way is that I think the majority of freelancers don't think of themselves as salespeople, right? They don't think that sales is part of what they're doing. But in the end, marketing and sales is one part of what they have to do. So they need to get familiar with the whole concept of what is inbound, what is outbound, how does it work, what is SEO, and what is social selling, what is network referrals, and what are the methodologies behind it. Yes. And I think this mindset needs to be a mindset as a freelancer that you need to incorporate into your day-to-day to have a strategic approach to it. But I fully agree with what you're saying is it's a relationship thing. And I think, I don't know anyone that does that more actively than you. Just help. And then I think you just know that eventually something will come back that will be great, and that will be good. And it's a beautiful way of making business, because suddenly out of I sell you this and you sell me that, it's let's just do things and something comes out of it, and we all chip in what we can do or what we know best.
Yes.
I want to show one more thing, and then perhaps we jump actually to Q&A. Well, I have a look what kind of other slides I have here, but one thing that is really important is that depending on the point of time when you're looking for a job, but also on the point of time of the market, you have a different way on how platforms versus inbound or other outbound work. And these days, when you apply on platforms, there's often an enormous amount of applicants for a job, right? And this number is from a random place, but there might be jobs where just 30 or 50. But when back in the day you would get 20 or 30 applicants on a platform as a company that provides a project, it's these days rather 100 or 130. And just because the market has turned so much. And what does that mean? That means that you need to be incredibly fast. When a job comes out, you need to be the first one to apply. Because if I'm the hiring manager or a recruiter, I will only check the first 10 or 15 people that applied. If I find the right fit there, I will not look any further. So you need to be the absolutely first that applies. And the profile you have is your CV. You need to have the right keywords. You need to have the right keyword match. If you have something, or if they're looking and explicitly asking for something and you don't provide it, you will be out at that step. Very simply because there are enough applicants and someone else will have it on their profile or on their CV. So if you don't provide this information, then this channel will never work for you at this given time. And then you need to see what kind of channels you use so that you might see, can I niche down there in a certain way, take a strategy for one specific channel. And if you do that, then suddenly all of the different platforms can work, right? You can get jobs out of it. You just need to push hard on them. And it's beautiful to have Elina back.
Yes.
So
I am so shocked. When did I drop off? I finished my presentation.
But that's okay. I think the first thing is, for myself, I can say I have an extra 15 minutes. I would say we prolong a bit. Jon and me did some part already that we would have done in the end. We've done a bit of conversation, saved some questions. So I would say you continue from where it was on the topic of the Excel file, the sheet with the different conversions. Is that right? That's what I remember.
Oh my God. So that was from the start. That was from
the start. Yes, pretty much from the start. So it's somewhere there in the internet is the rest of your presentation. And then we take it from there.
Okay, then let me run it really quick. I'm very sorry, folks. I actually delivered presentation for myself for the last 25 minutes. It's absolutely crazy. Okay.
Elina,
No
don't
worries.
go. People want to hear.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so then let me run it really quick. I'm going to skip the most of the talk, but just focus on essential. I did mention that the conversion rate differs, and I have explored what actually influences that conversion rate scenario. Obviously, the difference between 2% and 60% is tremendous. Like having 200 conversations or only 8 conversations to convert to customers is a huge, huge difference. And what influencing the conversion is actually our strong positioning. But then when we talk about positioning, people get really scared, like, oh, really, I have to put myself in a niche? This is what freelancers tell me. And I had so many conversations with freelancers where we actually figure out that they're already in a niche. And somehow people still think that being within a niche, they still have to put themselves even narrower. But that's not the case. What is missing actually is looking what's beyond the iceberg. You see, I've done the exercise already over here. So let me run through very quick. What we used to know about positioning, and there are obviously lots of studies coming from corporate world explaining positioning, and I've dropped some example. Maybe I can share actually slides, right, Mark, afterwards, about positioning for SaaS and technology companies. April Dunford share several examples, or positioning for pharmaceutical companies, which I stole from MBA books. But if we apply those to freelancers, they're not really applicable. First of all, because freelancer is a business of one. We are marketeers, we're salespeople, we are financial guys, we deliver service, we customer support, and many other hats that we wear. So technically, splitting position between functions doesn't really work in our case. We need to have a more coherent picture. And since I've done this already for myself, I'm just going to guide you through what positioning in my terms that is workable for freelancers. Now, Al Rees, Godfather, another Godfather of positioning, says that in order to have positioning, you need to have a product. And he also say that positioning is actually what we do to our customers' mind. That implies for me, but that there has to be some sort of interaction between us and customers. And most of the time, we skip that part. We skip the interaction. We miss the huge insights that we can get from our customers or prospects or whoever is even using similar services, not necessarily that person will be your customer, whatever. Most of the time when we talk about niching ourselves, and I know some people may say, oh, she's going to talk about niching, but yes, it's part of the positioning, you want it or not. It doesn't need to be scary. We talk about product definition or service in our case. And what I like to see in that definition is what is your solution to client problems and what are the outcomes. And the outcomes, I'll give you a big hint. There are typically two major outcomes that you have to focus. How you help your customers save money and how you help your customers earn money. So if you flash those outcomes to your customers, I guarantee you'll have attention. And second, as Seth Godin says, like you need to have a viable, minimal viable audience to sell your product. And when we talk about positioning or niching, we always talk about ideal customer. But that is not enough. This is, as you see, I was drawing the line here, it's top of the iceberg. This is what we hear and see all the time. And you may also recognize a bunch of advices online about niching, finding customer, working on your personal brand, improving sales emails, whatever it is. But all that is taken out of the context. And I'll show you how the context actually works in this case. So people is another component in the AP framework, contains not only customers, but also your network. The network plays massive, massive role. Well, ask Jon Younger. These are the people who will support you. These are the people who will promote you. These are the people who influence your business. These are people who will be talking about you, but not becoming customers, for example. And the third thing to people component is, it's actually the only soft skill that I emphasize a lot is your communication skills. So imagine you define your product and you decided to target your customers in different markets, and you're a developer in Germany, and you decided to target a customer in France, and you only speak German. I guess the success rate of that enterprise would be very low. Now, the third component to that framework is the place. It's actually where your people that we defined earlier hang out. And here you may think that LinkedIn is the place. Well, it can be, but I've seen so many examples where freelancers are using alternative channels and actually having a good success rate. I can mention communities, I can mention co-working spaces, I can mention accelerators. You can define it for yourself. And imagine what happens if you own that place. You'll be recognized for what you do in that particular place. And maybe to convert these 8 discussions, that's enough, right? So once you define all that, you should look at the promotion. You cannot escape promotion. And you don't need to be scared by the fact that you have to promote yourself. Some people call it building your personal brand. And that only works, again, once you have defined that. For how many years I was struggling myself, like what my personal brand should be, like what really I should be known for. But just because I wasn't really developed that system for myself. Going forward, your promotion is only strong as far as you can have a physical evidence. And this is what most freelancers skip. Physical evidence, the social proof, and the trust signals that you leave all over the internet sells for you. These are the testimonials, the feedback from clients, case studies, even your own website. Lots of freelancers skipping that fact, like, oh, I don't need a website. You do need a website. It's your channel. It's a promotional channel that you have to develop. Well, imagine we have all that, and even physical evidence is fantastic. But what about your process? How do you actually deliver your service? Obviously, it's a work delivery as such. There is another big component that I'm not going to talk about. It's the business administration as such, which is essential for running a business. But what's most important, and lots of business gurus actually emphasize the fact that if you have your own framework, your own IP and know-how, you actually can position yourself as an expert more prominently. And you can ask more money for that, and the advice to write books about it, and da, 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 da. Frameworks and innovation are important. And I'm not talking about Nobel Prize level innovations. It's small things that you discovered works for you and for your customers. And this is how networks also plays a big role here, because if you're able to obtain insights from the network for your business and for the business of your customers, you push it into frameworks and innovations. Customers pay lots of money for that insight. Imagine we have all that done. Performance is the next level. Okay, what is the quality of your work? Do you measure it? Do you document it? How customers know you do a great job? Okay, you have testimonials, which is fantastic. But how about personal satisfaction from all of that? If that is low, all the rest suffers as well. And the last component to that framework is the price, believe it or not. Many people put price up front, but as a matter of fact, in freelance business, price comes the last. Because if you don't have all this done, this is gone. The only thing you have left to compete with is price. And this is what lots and lots of freelancers do. They compete on price because they haven't figured out your positioning. They haven't worked on the processes. They haven't worked on the IP and know-hows and frameworks. And all what they can offer is just execution of something what customer is asking. On the other hand, if you have worked on all this, you have a stronger positioning, and therefore the conversion of the pipeline becomes much bigger. And then I also draw some parallels here and connections between providing value for the customer and getting value from that for yourself via the price that you charge. And that is actually the trajectory for going from hourly rates to value pricing. Like, there are lots of questions about how do I go to value pricing and all that, but that's how they go about it. You can't change your price overnight if you haven't worked on your positioning. Let me stop on this one. I guess time is limited, right, Mark, at the moment? Happy to expand on that during Freelance Unlocked. So sorry, I missed the entire thing. It was an interesting talk, I can tell. But why not repeat then?
Great. Thank you so much, Elina. No, well done. And I think, Jon, we winged it fantastically because we left out all this part of positioning and pricing and the different elements of it. So I think this has been very good. Thank you so much, Elina. So I would suggest we go directly to Q&A with questions. Now, the beauty for all the listeners is that now you've heard us all speak on more or less different topics. So I'm sure there must be some questions. If you take out your phone, you can just scan this QR code or go on slido.com with this number, and then you can ask questions. I myself will put them on my phone and see what we get out of it. There will be also afterwards a question how you like the webinar. I'm very interested about that one. So So please feel free to fill in any questions. Perhaps from my side, do you see the 8 Ps as a core element, Elina, to set up your freelance business and your general positioning, pricing, and everything as an element of strategic alignment, and then the actual playing on the channels come separately, or how do they interact?
I think it is strategic indeed. If I would knew that when I started, I would be paying more attention to these critical elements. Because at the end of the day, when I came to the realization that this is how it works, I lost almost like so many years of collecting evidence of my work, testimonials from the client. Even I sat the other day thinking, okay, what did I do actually? And how did that affected the business of my customers? If I would have that now, I would be in a much stronger position to come to other customers and say, hey, look what I've done. You need to work with me. Of course, now I know it and I'm working towards improving all that. But all the gurus that you see, like all the prominent influencers that you see out there, they nailed that system from the start. They knew how important it is to show evidence of the work, work out on the processes and frameworks, promoting themselves and building the personal brand on the grounds of the work that they do.
May I ask, Elina, may I ask a question, Jon Younger? And that is, what are the areas where you really want to work with other people in completing the 8 points for fear perhaps of not telling yourself the truth, skipping important points, et cetera, et cetera? Do you find that individuals can do this very well by themselves? Or is this an activity where you want some coaching, or not necessarily paid coaching, but where you want some friends to help you out to think through what's real and what's not? What's your experience with that?
Yeah, groups help, community help with that, absolutely. Because you may do the work yourself, but then you would want someone to validate it, to see, to look critically. Like, does it resonate? Like, not all of us are marketeers. Those who have marketing background can do it pretty good. But sometimes it's just a matter of wording. Is it like, does it resonate? Do I say what I need to say? So for that reason, helping group or community is a big asset.
Nice. That's very helpful.
So we got many questions flying in. We're over 15 questions. So please, everyone, use the upvoting, and I will take them from the top. And I'm not sure, Elina, you have also an extra 10, 15 minutes, because then I would say we played until 10 past, quarter past, whatever time zone you're in.
Yeah.
So first one, how and where should I show my positioning? On my website and my LinkedIn profile, or is there another way?
You show it everywhere. I mentioned choosing a channel. So the channel that you choose for yourself, where you show up for the customers, is your place to go. But technically, it should be replicated on your website and LinkedIn. I guess everyone is using LinkedIn. But then through your work, through your discussions with people.
I just want to say, it's probably a whole mindset thing, right? How do you answer to something, and how do you react to something? If you create a presentation, if you create an offer, no matter where, the whole logic of this plays a role, right?
Yeah.
Then how to decide how much effort to take into the customer pipeline if the projects are about 1 to 2 years, then I have to reject most customers during the project. I think this is a bit what played in what we discussed in between. I think it's really, that's again the question of what kind of ID do you have? What kind of freelance are you? If you generally have projects that take 1 to 2 years, then you might be better off on having strong SEO, so a really good inbound that you can reject. You can perhaps refer into your network, but you can pick and choose, and you can really optimize on your ideal customer and that one project, how to get that, and perhaps get the small ones on the side. If you have a high volume, then you need to have a constant pipeline. You probably want to be continuously active in getting people. I don't know how you see it, Jon and Elina.
Please, Elina.
Yeah. If your projects are 1 to 2 years duration, that's pretty good. It depends how many projects you need a year. Is it just one project that you need a year to cover all your costs and revenue? Maybe reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll show you that tracker that I've built that you can play by yourself. I hate rejecting customers. If you have inflow, if you have a strong demand, maybe think of partnering with someone so you don't lose that money and you still keep it.
Yeah, agreed.
Can I add a piece to it, which is I think the difference between a project and a relationship. My hope is that within some reasonable period of time, as you're doing a project, whatever its length, you're also building the relationship, and you're measuring how you're building the relationship by the people you're talking to, by the people you've introduced yourself to, by information that you're providing them on your areas of expertise, in addition to what you're working on this specific project. We are always marketing. We're marketing in between projects, we're marketing during projects, and we're marketing after projects. But may I say that the most powerful marketing is while you're already in with a client. It is to your advantage and to their advantage, if you're doing a good job, for them to keep using you. Are you making that easy for them, or are you not?
I don't know the demographics, but it's just always amazing to have an American in there because it just naturally comes out of you. It's like, yes, marketing is all time. And I would say, add to this, I think just because you reject a client, you don't reject a client.
Right.
You see what you do with them, and to play with what Jon said, you can help to a certain extent, and then perhaps you don't work with them. But it doesn't mean that once you look for a project, you cannot write a reactivation. If you have inflow and you forget about them, and you don't build relationship with them, and if you don't keep them in a loop what's happening with you, and if you don't reactivate them once you need a project, then it's just a rejection and it's useless. But otherwise, you build a reputation, you build a, yeah.
I would add one other piece, and that is, don't be greedy. If you have an opportunity that may not be a perfect fit for you, but is a perfect fit for somebody that you know, trust, and respect, try it, because the return may be very significant if in fact you build a relationship of sharing and mutual support with some of your colleagues.
So we need to
try to own it all. Find a way to share some of it around. I'm sorry.
We need to be quicker. 22 questions left. I take the one.
Sorry.
What platforms do you recommend to apply for positions? Find projects. Platforms like Upwork have mostly low-paying postings, and LinkedIn Jobs is 90% AI job ads.
Should we say Freelancer map and code control?
9 a.m. and uplink.
Uplink's great.
But can I show you a slide of the research that we've done in terms of where freelancers finding customers?
Go ahead.
Just really quickly.
And in the meantime, I can tell you, I think all of them work depending on what you're looking for. And Upwork can work as well.
Yeah.
But it's a matter, again, of your personality and how you use these platforms. And yes, of course, we love Freelancer Map. We love Uplink. We love 9.
I mean, I would say it has to be a combination. Like, you can't rely just on one source. It's super, super risky. And then platforms do a great job of connecting freelancers with customers, but it's still a middleman to some sort. So I would consider that one of the channels, definitely worth considering. But then your personal connections actually may bring more results to that extent. And here we did research with 13 different independent communities, not related to platforms whatsoever, just to see how people outside of platforms looking for customers. And majority, and we'll also look at their educational level. And you see majority still rely a lot on network, which is great, the recommendations, social media. But then what's interesting is, like, beginners, they lean to communities. However, advanced skilled professionals lean on recruiters, which is also middleman a little bit. So yeah, that's if you're interested in statistics.
Super cool. There's been a question before about presentation. I think as much as we can, we combine a bit what we've shown and share something. I don't know, Elina, will your presentation be shared or parts of it?
I can definitely share, yeah.
Cool. Then next question, how do you see the market for freelance right now? How is your outlook for the next months in regard of the economic situation in Europe? No one wants to answer that one.
Yeah. I don't have data, to be honest, to share. And also because what we discovered at some point when we were having this discussion with policymakers and decision makers in that field, it's very difficult to estimate the economy, the freelance economy in general, because the only data we have is from platforms. So for policymakers, the platform economy is the freelance economy. So there was a big argument about the fact that if we look at specific codes within the registration of entrepreneurs in Belgium, for example, we are even combined with farmers, fishers, and all the small businesses,
Sure.
which are not the same. So it's very difficult to estimate. So talking about what happens with the economy is very difficult because we don't have really data. Maybe
so, but yeah, I think there's, and you're completely right? We know the data from the platforms. We know a bit of data on how companies are hiring consultants. The numbers are down, right? And they're quite a bit down. They're stagnating on its level for a bit now already, on a not so great level. However, that's always the number of amount of job postings. Now, this is not the same thing of people on a job. So we don't see all of the freelancers sitting around and not having projects anymore. But what we see is that there are more applicants per project. What we see is that as a freelancer, you need to get active, position yourself, and make sure that you get your next project. Or you have, do exactly these things. That's why we have so many people in this webinar. But if you do that, you're perfectly well off and you have a project. So I would say we go next. How much of my time should I invest in positioning, community versus client work?
How much time do I need to spend on positioning?
Yes, and the community, and I think the question is on this general marketing sales part versus on clients.
Like if you look at a general business, they spend quite some resources on marketing to move the business. So why should you be different? I think it's up to each of us to define, okay, how much time I have really to work on my business versus in business, but you cannot skip that part. In my calendar, for instance, I keep Friday off. I prefer not to work on Fridays, but if I need to, I do some work on Friday for marketing and promotional, and Mondays. These are my admin days, so to speak. But then during the week, it's client work and maybe ad hoc. Well, I have a community on top, so that's a bit different.
But I would say, I think strategic work is not continuous, but strategic work needs to be in regular time spans. It needs to come, and then you need to work it through and get your understanding, and then it's tiny work on that, and then it's operational sales and marketing work, which I think is something that has to happen.
May I jump in on this?
Yeah, please.
50-50. Simple. 50-50. You need to spend half of your time securing your future and the other half of your time delivering on your present. And if you're not spending 50% of your time on securing your future, you have less future to be secure.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I would say there's potentially, depending on what kind of role you have, there might be, the split might change a bit. And on what you sell, right? Are you selling products? Are you selling value-based, or are you selling hours? And I think there's a question later somewhere, not sure if we get to that, but on how to do that with the time and several customers. And I think it's in the end changing your pricing away from by the hour to results. That's the best way of working with several clients.
Yes. I need to scoot you guys in just a couple of minutes. May I make just one comment before I go? And Mark and Elina, I'm very sorry to have to leave immediately. in a minute or two. I think what Elina is talking about is so powerful, and I think it's all about whether you take it seriously enough to actually bring it into your practice. If you listen to it for 30 minutes or 40 minutes or 50 minutes, it's interesting. But when you apply it to yourself, when you start to really ask yourself the question of how well am I positioned? How well am I delivering? How well am I following up? It's not interesting, it's profound. And if you want to run a successful small business, you gotta operate according to what it takes to be successful. And I think Elina has given us a powerful methodology for testing and checking yourself and helping other people. And what you'll see if you join my workshop as well at Freelance Unlocked is a variation on some of the specifics that I think the combination will be a lot of fun.
I just want to say, I do a little ad section here because when Jon is leaving, you have a chance to meet Jon at Freelance Unlocked. We have until end of this month still the early bird pricing, and this until end of April, and then the price will increase. So this your chance to get a ticket. If you want to contribute, if you have any questions, anything, please hit us, let us know, and we do something out of it. And I would say, Elina, we go through a few more questions, and then we take these questions and think what we do out of that for the future, and perhaps find a way of written answers, or at the conference to do an extra session, or perhaps another webinar.
Beautiful.
Thanks, Jon. Already, you can already take off. Thanks, Jon. So there's a question: how to find potential well-fitting clients for cold outreach? Are there any criteria that you can recommend?
The only way I can recommend is just by keep looking. I mean, use LinkedIn Navigator, LinkedIn search. The other day I've done the exercise just by putting in search the title of my ideal customer and see who's going to pop up first in the first connection. And then I reach out to all of them saying, hey, can we have a talk? Then second connection, and you can do as long as you want and see what sort of response you're going to get. I think one of the biggest fear of freelancers is just asking, like not so many actively outreaching and trying to connect with people. Like there is something bad with it. I would say that's the first place.
Yeah.
As some advanced freelancers even work on like lead generations, campaigns. They hire specific people who would generate the leads for them, and then they run campaigns. I mean, you have to be advanced in that. But again, if you need to have 200 conversations, that's a different story. But if you only need to have 8 conversations a year to fix your projects, then it's much easier.
And if you know who to reach out to and what to sell to them, then your chance of getting into a conversation is fairly high, and you win your dream customer.
Yeah, absolutely. And one other thing I wanted to mention for the processes in the 8 Ps framework is that your process can really let you down big time. And I can give you my personal example when I've got a lead of the fastest growing company in Belgium that was looking for my services, and they sent me requests via website. And I didn't check that email. It comes in a specific mailbox. And 3 months later, and I'm like, shit. So imagine what happens. Of course, I reach out to them, but that was late. This is how your process can let you down in your positioning. If everything works, but you're just missing the leads consistently, that's quite detrimental.
Yeah. So the next question is, how does acquisition differ when it's usually about long-term contract 6 months plus, as you would need inbound only at a very specific time? I think we spoke a bit about this before. It's perhaps I show a slide from this what we had before that I mentioned on the side, and this doesn't mean that it really captures it all. Oh, sorry, but I would say you have a pipeline management, and there's a question where to act, right? And you have this long away from needing a new project, which is more of a passive mode. In this passive mode, you want to have visibility, you want to have a lot of inbound, you want to make sure that you have your product right, your positioning right, that everything works, that there's a machine running, right? And then there's a moment where it becomes clear that you need to do something, and that becomes activating your profiles, showing that you're looking for something, changing your title a little bit, putting this open for work on there, making sure that on the platforms you set yourself available, reaching out to your network, mentioning to people, mentioning to your old network that you're available, because all of these things take a bit of time to realize, right? So when the moment you start sending an email to your former customers and leads, to the moment that you get the first call might be 2 to 3 weeks, and then there might be some time passing. So you want 8, perhaps even 10 weeks before that, doing that. And then there's the question, okay, now it's getting scary. So that's active outbound. And then there's a final push, right? And this is final push. I had here lower rate flexibility. Let's see. Ideally, you don't do that. But you need to take the time in consideration to see what you do, from my perspective.
Yeah. Well, you build your pipeline, so you have some sort of projection ahead. You know that for the next 6 months you're busy, but after that you're going to be empty. So you have to start working on that already now to make sure that you have something in the 6 months. But it's not that you stop and go. You constantly do that, even if you have longer projects. Like what refrains you from building relationship, like Jon said, with your target audience all of the time? First of all, it's not only because you pitched to them, it's because you learn from them as well. And these are the insights that I mentioned. You actually, that strengthens your position towards other customers that you can reshare. And again, I guess it's about business design as well. If you prefer longer term assignments, which is always better, I guess, more money, then that's great. But if you do smaller things, can you think, okay, can you actually enlarge that involvement into something longer? Lots of freelancers I know do retainers. They try to sell themselves like on constant basis. So retainer is for 6 months and you stay within the team to do specific jobs. At least you have some sort of predictable some projection ahead, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I think we do 2 more questions, and then I would like to do still a quick, you giving us feedback. I will show another QR code or another code, and then we take the rest of the questions out of this webinar. So one more question is how to decide to my positioning when I like to work on different topics. What should I keep in mind when I decide for one niche? So that's very interesting, right? I work on different topics. I like different topics. Is it one positioning, several positionings? What do I do there?
Welcome to the club. I have so many initiatives that I run that I have to decide like what to do with my positioning. So in my case, I'm an event producer, event marketeer. This is my core job, but people know me by freelance community because this is all over the place. I've built my reputation by running that community. So I kind of hear what you're saying, like how exactly do I need to position myself? You can do both in parallel. Depends. What I would look actually at what really brings revenue. And sometimes people decide, listen, I want to do something else because I really like it. And that's what the passion is about. I mentioned in the framework. And then try to see maybe you can turn your passion into paid project or, something that brings revenue. This is how people launch communities or some side businesses and things like that. It's almost like having several businesses at the same time. Some freelancers, there could be a specific situation, I don't know, but some freelancers I know, they struggle because they say, listen, I have this, I'm expert in this industry, but I have community, I have books, I have podcast, I have this and this and this. Like, what do I do? Where do I focus? But you don't need to focus. You do all that for your industry. All these supporting things, the podcast, the books, they're supporting your expertise. These are your assets that you've developed, your marketing assets to promote yourself as an expert. So yeah, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn and share your case. I'll see what what could be done in your case. On mute, Mark.
Okay, then I can talk for a while. So yeah, but I love that because I think you are exactly this one person that has so many different elements, and it doesn't matter if you like playing football video games and you're a developer, then you might be for video game football game the right developer. I mean, that's too simple, but I think you're a well-rounded person, right? And this plays into your interest, it plays into your personality, it plays into your niching, it plays into your positioning. So it doesn't have to be one thing. and even if they seem on the first glance completely separate, they might help you. I don't know, you love dogs and animals, and perhaps you end up getting a lot of clients through the network there. So I think there's a lot of ways to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. There is actually a fantastic framework called UESO, uniqueness. Let me remember. Technically, you list all what you do, what you like, your background, your languages, education, like all that you list about your profile to see what actually makes your uniqueness. And in some cases, and there are certain freelancers I know, they manage to combine both, and they became an expert in that specific niche or market because they had this background and because of the interest and because of the passions they had. They were lucky enough to combine it and actually come up as a specific expert in that particular field. So definitely not a limitation.
Cool. So Elina, first of all, again, everyone, please give us some feedback, and please also write us emails and let us know, connect with us on LinkedIn so that we can get better and that we can give more insights to you. Elina, for me, thank you so much. Again, we just were able to touch so many things, and I would have liked to go way deeper into it. I know that you create a lot of content, that you also have a fantastic newsletter to subscribe. I'm a subscriber for many years. A very personal and professional newsletter, which is really nice to have. It's a very nice combination. And then, yes, let's see what we get out of this. Let's see what your feedback is. We have still a good 19 questions open, so we will go through them and we will make our assessment how we can help you to learn more and get better in your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, very unfortunate that my system dropped. I still need to see what happened. But happy to share all what I know about positioning, because that is important, as I discovered. And looking forward to seeing you guys in Berlin.
Yes, very much looking forward to it. Thank you so much, everyone. See you soon. Cheers. And have a lovely rest of the week. Ciao.